Hello, this is Cotton Soups, and today's video I am joined by,
Game Lab.
and welcome back to another HTUC video.
On the Lumion Searknight, one of the best fire types.
So with that out of the way, let's talk about Searknight. From counters and checks, to the teammates, to Searknight sets and roles, as well as its weaknesses and resistances. This video is on how to use and counter Searknight.
What role does Searknight play? In order to answer this, we must look at its base stats. It has pretty bad ranged attack, especially in the speed tier too. But hey, better than most, I guess, in a sense. As for its HP and energy, they're very good, but the same numbers, of course. So I dare say they're pretty good. Especially its range defense, I guess it's okay, but it's pretty good. As for its melee attack and melee defense, they're very good. 102 for melee attack and 125 for melee defense. Very, very good for starter. What role does Searknight play? Bulky, strong, and versatile Lumion. Can be a good support wall / lead with bow. Searknight's typings are fire and metal. For resistances, plant, ancient, mind, typeless. Free weaknesses are water, electric, brawler. Its free major resistances are ice, bug, metal. Its one major weakness is 4 times earth.
The defensive set for Searknight is probably the better set out of the sets that Searknight can run. The ability of choice will be Terrifying or Awakening. You can run Terrifying if you want to have better matchups against certain melee attackers, but generally, most of the time, you would want to run Awakening. And the moveset of choice, Barb, Searing Steel, and Flame and Kick will be your best moves, of course. You can of course run other moves like Slapdown and Raging Flame and Power Focus, but generally, those 3 moves will be your best, and you can choose between those 3 moves. And the personality, brawny, clever, very clumsy. This is so we can maximize our weaker defensive stat and maximize our offensive stat. You can of course run very clever if you do want to maximize your range defense, because it is a defensive set. And the item of choice, Rachel Plushie, Health Amulet, or the armor / shield, and a choice of pearl can be your items. I'd prefer Rachel Plushie or Health Amulet because Searknight is a great abuser of the Rachel Plushie because it does have some good matchups to abuse it, and Health Amulets because, well, we want recovery. And the TPs, 200 HP so we can max out our HP stat, 36 energy so we can use 3 or 2 layers of barbs, and then of course you can use your other moves, and 200 melee attack or the range defense can be put anywhere. It's leftovers, and the 64 speed is leftovers as well, but you can invest that speed stat into anywhere else you'd like, for example the melee defense. So yeah. And for the offensive set for Jamie, it's basically Jamie's set. You can run Awakening or Terrifying. Awakening is a lot more better here. Personality should be brawny, nimble, or very clumsy, mainly because you want to run the more speed and more melee attack, but of course you can run very brawny, tender, sluggish, or clumsy if you do want to. And of course, the item of choice can be the same as always, but generally I would not run the heavy armor or the shield, and of course you can run your own choice of pearl, or shell, actually, not pearl, shell. And the TPs will be the same ones. Last one a little bit. 64 speed will let you outspeed a 0 speed non-sluggish Stratosaur with the nimble personality. And the 64 HP, if you do not want to outspeed the Stratosaur, you can of course run 200 speed and then put the leftovers of 64 into the HP. And everything is just the same. So with that out of the way, let's talk about Searknight's counters and checks, as well as its teammates, so let's get along with that. Alright, so offensive counters and checks to Searknight are pretty simple. You just want to run stuff that can hit it super effectively and can switch it in one of its moves. You want to run water types. While Searing Steel does hit through their resistance, they are still one of the better answers. Zulong, Totab, and Zeppelin are all pretty good as well. They're mainly here because, well, you know, they have super effective moves. And defensive counters and checks to Searknight, you want to run these guys. And while there are technically other answers like maybe Tundulin and Luminami, or not Luminami, but Tundralin, Tsukame. You mainly want to run these guys because in my opinion, these guys are the best. Sedamars can tank hits even from the range defense set, and of course Obsidian, it does have resilience, so it can beat Searknight in a one-on-one. It just has to watch out if Searknight's going to be clicking Searing Steel over and over. It cannot switch in that much. That's just how strong Searknight is. And the offensive teammates for Searknight are simple as well. You want to run stuff that can take out the walls, stuff like Nevermare, Wintrix, Eclipse, Gobidemic, Namare, Vagenot, and Totap. Mainly you want to run stuff that can pivot in, because Searknight does fit pretty well in hyper offense style teams. Stuff like Namare, Vagenot are pretty good for pivoting in, and of course Gobidemic also being a good Lumion for Searknight, because they can set up barbs together, which is pretty cool, and you don't really need just one barb setter, you can have two. And Nevermare, fun fact, it can actually resist all of Searknight's weaknesses, and Searknight can resist most of Nevermare's weaknesses. So yeah, have fun with that. And of course, the defensive teammates for Searknight are pretty simple as well. You want to run stuff that can take out the offensive counters and checks, and of course, Searknight can fit in a lot of defensive teams as well. So running Namare again, as well as Luminami, can be beneficial. Mainly the best ones out of these bunch is Harvesect and Namare. It's just basically like that. You can of course run stuff like Tyrex, which is pretty good overall, and Luminami. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the conclusion and my thoughts on Searknight, so let's get along with that. So I think Searknight is a pretty good Lumion. It's actually, in my last ranking, I'm pretty sure I put it in the A+ tier. It might be a bit more down looking back at it now, but right now Searknight looks like a pretty good Lumion and can fit in a lot of teams. It's just that people don't really prefer it, because Gobidemic, of course, being a lot better of a barb setter. While Searknight is a good barb setter, it's not really as good as Gobidemic, but unlike Gobidemic, it can do a lot more things. It can provide offensive pressure, and it's pretty good defensively as well, and it just so happens that Searknight can also run barbs. So with that out of the way, like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're into these kind of videos. I do have a Discord, and of course, remember that Zulong is still a dumpster fire.